The Amityville Horror House. In 1974, 6 members of the DeFeo family were brutally murdered in Amityville, New York, by their eldest son. A year later, the Lutz family moved into that same house, only to flee 28 days later, claiming they experienced terrifying, unexplained phenomena. Doors slamming, voices in empty rooms, cold spots, and objects moving on their own. Their story became a best-selling book and a long-running horror franchise, but whether the haunting was real or a hoax remains one of the most debated cases in paranormal history. The Enfield Poltergeist Case. Between 1977 and 1979, a council house in Enfield, London became the epicenter of one of the most documented poltergeist cases ever. The Hodgson family, especially 11-year-old Janet, reported furniture sliding across floors, knocking sounds from empty walls, voices that weren't there, and objects flying through the air. Investigators recorded unexplained activity, and police officers witnessed disturbances themselves. Skeptics questioned the events, but the chilling testimonies and recordings cemented this case in paranormal lore.
The Flannan Isles Lighthouse Mystery. In December 1900, 3 lighthouse keepers vanished from the remote Flannan Isles off the coast of Scotland with no trace left behind. When relief workers arrived, they found the station undisturbed, clothes, logs, and supplies untouched, but no bodies and no clear sign of what happened to the men. Some speculated a rogue wave swept them away. Others whispered darker possibilities. Over a century later, the disappearance remains one of Britain's most haunting maritime mysteries.
The Texarkana Moonlight Murders. In early 1946, a shadowy attacker known only as the Phantom Killer terrorized the Texas-Arkansas region on the Texas-Arkansas border. Over a 10-week span, the killer struck at night, ambushing couples parked on lonely roads, murdering 5 people and wounding others. Witnesses described a man wearing a mask made from cloth with holes for eyes and mouth. Despite massive manhunts, the Phantom Killer was never identified or captured, leaving the small towns gripped by fear and unanswered questions. The Atlas Vampire Murder. In 1932, Stockholm, police found 32-year-old Lily Lindstrom bludgeoned to death in her apartment, her blood almost completely drained, and a blood-stained ladle nearby. The press dubbed the unknown assailant the Atlas Vampire. Investigators found traces of saliva on her neck and little evidence of the killer, even though crime scene samples were collected, fingerprints, hair, and bodily fluids, yet no suspect was ever arrested. The macabre nature of the crime sparked fear and fascination across Sweden.
The Lost Colony of Roanoke. In 1587, over 100 English settlers established a colony on Roanoke Island, off the coast of present-day North Carolina. When supply ships returned 3 years later, the entire settlement had vanished. The only clue left behind was the word Croatoan carved into a post, but no bodies, no signs of struggle, and no confirmed explanation. Historians still debate whether the colonists were killed, assimilated with local tribes, or met an unknown fate.
The Mothman Sightings of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. From late 1966 to late 1967, residents of Point Pleasant, West Virginia reported sightings of a 7-foot-tall, winged creature with glowing red eyes that chased cars and appeared in the darkness around an abandoned TNT plant. The encounters culminated shortly before the catastrophic collapse of the Silver Bridge, which killed dozens, leading some locals to believe the creature, dubbed the Mothman, was an omen of disaster.
The Dyatlov Pass Incident. In 1959, 9 experienced Russian hikers died under gruesome and mysterious circumstances on the slopes of the Ural Mountains. Their tent was cut open from the inside, and they fled into blizzard-cold conditions inadequately dressed. Some bodies were found with severe internal injuries, broken ribs and skull fractures, yet no external wounds. Others showed signs of radiation. The investigation was inconclusive, spawning theories from secret military experiments to unexplained natural forces.
The Isdal Woman.
In 1970, hikers in Norway found a burned body in a remote area called Isdalen Valley. The woman's identity was a complete mystery. Labels were removed from her clothes, her fingerprints disguised with acid, and strange coded notes in her possession. Police dubbed her the Isdal woman, and despite extensive investigations, her identity and the circumstances of her death remain unknown, a cold case that still haunts investigators and amateur sleuths alike.
The Hinterkaifeck murders. In 1922 Germany, 6 members of the Gruber family were murdered on their isolated farmstead called Hinterkaifeck. In the days before the killings, neighbors and the family themselves reported strange footsteps in the attic and unexplained sounds around the property. The killer was never found, and the eerie detail that the family's keys were left on the victims after the murders suggests they may have known the intruder. The mystery remains one of Germany's most chilling unsolved crimes. The disappearance of the Sodder children. On Christmas Eve 1945 in West Virginia, a house fire consumed the Sodder family home. 5 of the 10 children were never found. No remains, no ashes, no trace, despite extensive searches. Mysterious phone calls to the family hours after the fire, odd sightings of potential survivors over the years, and unexplained evidence at the scene have made the Sodder children's disappearance one of America's most enduring and heartbreaking mysteries.
The Villisca Axe Murders. In 1912, 8 people, 6 members of the Moore family and 2 house guests, were brutally bludgeoned to death with an axe in their home in Villisca, Iowa. The crime scene was horrific. The bodies still lay where they fell, and the murderer left no fingerprints or clear evidence. Despite multiple suspects over the years, no one was ever convicted. The house today stands as a chilling reminder of a brutal night with no justice served.
The lead masks case. In 1966 Brazil, 2 electronic technicians were found dead on a hillside wearing lead eye masks and formal suits, with a notebook nearby containing cryptic instructions. No signs of violence were present, and toxicology was inconclusive. Theories range from bizarre ritual to unidentified chemical exposure. The strange attire and instructions have made this one of Brazil's most unsettling unresolved deaths.
The Somerton Man, Tamam Shud. In 1948 Australia, a well-dressed man was found dead on a beach with no identification. A scrap of paper in his pocket read Tamam Shud, meaning ended or finished, taken from a rare book of poetry. The book was later found containing coded text that remains undeciphered. The man's identity and cause of death have never been determined, turning it into one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries.
The Wendigo psychosis cases. Among some indigenous Algonquian tribes in Canada, there are documented historical cases of individuals suffering Wendigo psychosis, a culturally recognized condition where a person becomes obsessed with cannibalistic violence. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, documented legal cases in Canada mention defendants claiming the spirit of the Wendigo compelled them to kill and eat others. These real court records and anthropological reports blur folklore with grim human tragedy.
The Elisa Lam Elevator Mystery. In 2013, 21-year-old Elisa Lam disappeared while staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Surveillance footage from a service elevator showed her acting strangely, pressing multiple buttons, hiding in corners, and peering out as if someone was outside the frame. Days later, her body was found in a rooftop water tank, unreachable without climbing several locked doors and ladders. The bizarre elevator behavior and unanswered questions have made this case a chilling modern mystery.